When I began my project, which I decided to call HealthRamp, the mission felt so beautifully simple. I had one clear aim. I wanted to help people, regular people, friends, my family, myself, read and understand their own lab reports. The goal was to make an application that was simple and kind, a tool that took confusing medical jargon and made it clear. I honestly did not think it would involve learning an entirely new universe of technology. I certainly did not imagine I would end up building so many different complex things all by myself from the ground up. You see, I am in my 80s. This whole adventure took place on my home PC. There was no big team of engineers in a shiny office with whiteboards and endless coffee. There was no venture capital funding, no project manager, no deadlines other than the ones I set for myself. It was just one person, a clear idea, and a surprising amount of stubbornness. I wanted to take something that causes anxiety for so many and turn it into something empowering. The journey started with that simple desire, but the path, I would soon find out, was anything but simple. The very first lesson, and it was a big one, hit me almost immediately. I learned that modern applications are not a single monolithic program like the software I remembered from years ago. At first, Docker felt like trying to learn a completely new and foreign language. The concepts were abstract, the commands were cryptic, the documentation seemed written for people who already understood it. But I stuck with it, and slowly, like a picture coming into focus, it started to make perfect sense. Docker allows you to create these things called containers. A container is a neat little box that holds one specific part of your application and everything it needs to run. The magic. The container runs exactly the same way on any computer, eliminating that classic works on my machine problem. I learned to run a whole suite of services, each in its own container. PostgreSQL, the brain, the database for patient data and results. Redis, super-fast temporary tasks. Minio, file storage, S3 compatible for uploaded lab reports. Fast API backend, handles the app's logic. React frontend, builds the screens people interact with. It became a whole ecosystem. To manage it, I used a Docker Compose file. The file is like a conductor's script. It tells Docker which containers to start, how to configure them, and how they connect. I ran Docker Compose up and watched 6 services start, logging in my terminal. Pure joy. It felt like turning a key and my engine roaring to life. This was my personal, local cloud. A small-scale replica of professional infrastructure running on my desktop. Everything I tested locally would behave the same in the real cloud. My training ground, sandbox, and launchpad. Learning Docker was learning the modern way to build and deploy software, a foundational skill for the entire project. With the engine running, I quickly realized that organization was not just a nice-to-have. It was a matter of survival. A complex project with many moving parts can become a tangled mess very quickly if you are not careful. So, I took the time to create a very clear and logical folder layout. I created a main folder for the entire project. Inside it, I made separate subfolders for each major component. There was a folder named Backend for all the Python code, a front-end folder for the React code, a worker folder for background tasks. Even the NGINX configuration had its own dedicated spot. This structured approach, my blueprint for the code, made the project tidy and manageable. When I needed to work on the user interface, I knew to go into the front-end folder. When a database issue came up, the relevant configuration was in my Docker Compose file. This separation of concerns prevented me from getting lost in a sea of files. It was like a well-organized workshop where every tool has its proper place on the wall. My command center for this entire operation became a program called Visual Studio Code, VS Code. It was so much more than just a text editor. I opened my main project folder in VS Code. From there, I could do almost everything. I used its built-in terminal to run my Docker commands. I used it to build the containers and to watch the logs for errors or successes. I edited my Python files for the backend. I edited my JavaScript files for the front end, all within the same window. It felt like being the captain on the bridge of a ship, with all the controls and monitors right at my fingertips. One of the first major hurdles was making the application actually talk to the database. With the database connected, it was time to build the real brains of the operation, the backend. I chose Python, along with a framework called FastAPI. This backend would be the tireless worker behind the scenes. It would manage user logins, create and retrieve patient records, process file uploads, and perform all the necessary work with the database. This is where I truly learned what an API, an application programming interface, was. It's a set of rules and endpoints that the front end uses to ask the back end to do things. A huge part of HealthRamp's purpose was to handle actual medical documents, which meant I had to figure out file uploads. The app needed to securely store lab reports, which are often PDF or image files. For this, I used Minio, the self-hosted storage solution that mimics Amazon S3. This was a whole new area of learning. I had to understand concepts like objects, which are just files, and buckets, which are like folders for those files. I learned how to generate secure keys and write code that allowed a user to select a file on their computer and have it safely uploaded and stored in a Minio bucket, ready for processing. That was a massive win. The moment a test PDF file successfully uploaded from the web page and appeared in my Minio storage browser, the application suddenly felt much more real. It was no longer just dealing with abstract data in a database. It was now capable of handling real-world healthcare files. This step transformed HealthRamp from a theoretical exercise into a practical tool that could actually manage the documents it was designed to interpret. It was a tangible milestone that gave me a huge boost of motivation to keep going, to build the next piece of the puzzle. The next logical step was to create the beautiful, easy-to-read reports that were the entire point of the project. For this, I turned to a Python library called ReportLab. With it, I wrote code that could dynamically generate brand new PDF documents from scratch. These PDFs were designed to be clear and helpful. They would prominently display the patient's name, list out all the lab results with their corresponding reference ranges, and automatically highlight any values that were out of the normal range in a different color. I even added a section for short, explanatory notes. Seeing that first custom PDF get created by the app was truly magical. After building the powerful engine and logic in the back end, I had to create the car's body and dashboard, the part that people would actually see and touch. This is the front end, and for this, I chose to learn React. It's a popular JavaScript library for building user interfaces. I had to create all the screens for HealthRamp, login page, upload lab reports page, dashboard to view patient records, analysis screen, download PDF reports page. It was like being given a blank canvas and being told to paint a masterpiece. To be honest, learning React was hard at first. The way it thinks about building web pages was completely new to me. I had to wrap my head around concepts like components, reusable building blocks, state, how a component remembers input. Most importantly, I had to learn how the front end, running in the user's web browser, could fetch data from the backend server I had built. The first time I made a page that successfully called my backend API and displayed real data from the database, I felt an incredible sense of pride. Errors were my constant companions on this journey. They were everywhere, all the time. Sometimes a Docker container just wouldn't start for a reason I couldn't figure out. Other times, the database would refuse to connect, or different software packages would have conflicts with each other. I ran into problems where a port was already in use by another program, or my Docker volumes, which store the data, would get corrupted. This entire project has been about so much more than just building an application. It has fundamentally changed me. It has proven that a single person, regardless of age, can learn and build modern technology. You are never too old to learn, to be a beginner, to feel completely lost and then find your way. Big goals aren't giant leaps. They're 1,000 small, patient steps. Persistence matters more than brilliance or perfection. The HealthRamp running on my local computer is just the prototype. My next major goal, move the whole system to the cloud, accessible and secure. Migrate local PostgreSQL to a managed cloud database like Amazon RDS. Switch local Minio to Amazon S3 for file storage. Use Amazon SES for sending emails reliably. Everything was built with this migration plan in mind: Docker workflows, containers, configs. A few years ago, I would have laughed if told I'd be building Docker containers, running databases, writing APIs, generating PDFs from code, building interactive web screens with React. I simply would not have believed you. Yet here I am, still learning, still building, still solving problems, still feeling that spark of excitement with every small victory.